Team going back out and running smoothly. Stevenson looking pretty good. Dan Ryan's okay. Everything else is moving fine.
Who goes there? I said, who goes there? Hold up. Give me a beat. Give me an introduction. Where you at, Ed? There I am, Johnny. Wrong song, Ed. Oh, sorry about that, Johnny. Wrong song, so to speak. Well, you know what I mean. So the second one is the more appropriate one. You know, to get my talk show, you know, up and running, to get it started, or with the entree before I give you the full course meal of the content of the present social media broadcast. Okay, take it away, Ed. All right, Johnny. Okay, here we go. Here's Johnny. Thank you, Ed. Hello, hey, hi there, social media family. Being of any subscribers and or likewise any visitors or subscribers and visitors alike to that being of my own YouTube. Say YouTube, not YouTube. Although it is speculated that the white Jewish own the majority of most of the different social media networks, and no offense meant to them, you know, of a race of people being the white Jewish, who has supposedly, according to a conspiracy theory, have stolen the identity of another race of people, being of blacks, and the culture thereof, of the supposed so-called original Jews, being of us black Hebrew Israelites. But I don't look at it that way. I mean, if one race of people wants to be recognized as another race of people, then I figure that they are, you know, of our brethren or brothers and sisters. So I got no qualms with whether or not the white Jewish are legitimately, you know, to be considered as being the original Jews, you know. As far as I'm concerned, they are. Not that I'm wagging the dog. That's a cliche, a corn phrase, meaning that translated to be defined as somebody maybe, could possibly be, or probably is changing the subject, you know. Let's get into the thing about one of our former ex-presidents of the USA. I said former ex, not late presidents of the USA. You know, with his Monica Lewinsky political scandal that could have ended his own presidency prematurely. And whereas he was supposed to have refocused that is the tensions of not only the general American public or people at large for our own citizenry, but the rest of the global community's attention about a war that was brewing in one of these Middle Eastern countries or nations, you know, being a wish we ourselves could have had or could be developing a conflict of interest with be the other country or nation of a foreign one overseas is friend or foe to that of our own, regardless of what could have possibly triggered the, you know, differences of political and or diplomatic views and opinion to be associated with the two different parties or countries or nations in question. And moving right along. Anyway, though, well, first of all, let me ask you all, how your person doing? My social media family and any that's social media family, any subscribers, and as well as any visitors to that being on my own YouTube social media channel. You know, hold that. So, not that I meant to disrespect anybody when I said, hold it for a minute. I have to get some tissue and duty calls. You know, if not, you know, I were to have to really take care of the necessary business I have for another bodily function. You know, That is, if I were to have to pay my water bill, as they say, you know, as we take a leak, do number one, but hopefully not number two as yet, you know, though duty would call equals well, if not, especially in that regard. You know, so far as the elimination of waste products, you know, for our own biological chromosomes of the physical human body. Just as you are what you eat, you are what you think. So please stay healthy, everybody. You know? And hopefully everyone is doing at least okay. If not, better yet to be said, to be feeling all right. If not, best of all, to be said. Hold that thought.
You drink it, brush your teeth with it, and bathe in it. Yuck. For your family's sake, repipe your home with quality PEX or copper pipes from all
to be feeling
plumbing. We're your local family-owned and operated repiping expert. We can repipe your
blessed and stressed, more blessed and stressed, or too blessed to possibly become or be stressed. So I say as believer in God, as in Christian, a.k.a. Protestant, and to have, you know, put one's hands in the hand of the man from the Sea of Galilee. This is some of the best water in the world. Some are such. No, my bad, correction. This is the best water in the world when it comes to H2O water. Unless you're an alien from outer space, a hybrid of some kind, sort of type of a human being, you know, like I myself am supposed to be. If you're an alien from outer space, you're an extraterrestrial, just taking on human form. No, I'm part Vulcan, is what I mean. So, you know, like Lieutenant Spock of a Starship Enterprise. Well, hopefully I'm not a cousin of Elmer Fudd or Sly Stallone. No offense meant to that Hollywood or Hollywood California actor. You know, if we're talking about speech impediments or speech defects, you know, I'm not dissing anybody that has one, you know. I hope I'm not a cousin of somebody that has a memory lapse episode on a regular basis, like one of our, not former ex, but late presidents of USA, Ronald Wilson Reagan. But then I nicknamed him Ronnie Reggie Reagan. Gorbachev, tear that wall down. But then we should have permitted more another race of peoples, persons who have suffered just as much, if not more, than my own supposed or so-called race of people, you know. Whereas to some, I would be considered as being black, you know. Whereas I don't look at that. I don't look at it from that point of view of those matters in question, because I don't consider myself as being black or white. Hey, Stacy Dash. But I consider myself as being, or regardless of whether or not I could have been a closet boyfriend, if not closet fiance, of a Hollywood or Hollywood actor, being of a Miss Stacy Dash, Miss or Mrs. That is depending on whether or not she's married now. You know, the Hollywood starlet that was speaking rather in a controversial way. Well, some would think it to be a controversy, and others could tend to differ. You know, and as it would relate to what I was saying, you know, I don't consider myself black or white. I just consider myself as an American. You know, second to my person being first and foremost a Christian, as in Protestant, believer in God. You know. But then anyway, though, this here present social media content is not about me, but rather it is about the incoming mayor of the city of Chicago for the Midwest of the USA, as we have. As a matter of fact, he just ended his inauguration speech. I suppose it was sincere, then superficial, you know, to make it seem like as if he himself is like the black JFK, the Windy City, metropolitan Chicago, Illinois, USA. It's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. No, that's not my JFK voice. Let me see if I can remember him. And some say that I do a pretty good JFK impersonation so far, voice-wise. It's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And it sounded more like him. You know. But anyway, though, I'm getting back to some such as a complete former previous pride line thought. Whereas what's his name? You forgot the name of the incoming mayor of the city of Chicago. Are you sure you're not a cousin of Elmer Fudd or Sly Stallone? Or rather, what I meant to say, now your memory lapse is influencing that of my own memory. You sure you're not a cousin of the late Ronald Wilson Reagan, as well as you could possibly be a cousin of Sly Stallone, if we're talking about from one physical malady or ailment to another? No, I know Brandon Johnson, being of a black brother, who has taken the place of Mrs. Bushy-bush. Read between the lines, fill in the blanks. Bushy-bush. Get me think about the late President Richard M. Nixon, you know, or the late President Richard Milhouse Nixon, as they had given him the nickname or street slang term of, not that I had meant to seem, sound as well like I'm dissing somebody, I mean, and most certainly, definitely not our, our former ex-president of the U.s.A., the Führer of all races of peoples. The word Führer in the German language is only to be defined as translated meaning, in accordance to American English, as leader. And former ex-president Donald Trump is, that a Führer for all races of people's persons, who is pro-life compared to our modern day King Herod, baby killer, abortionist supporter, president-elect. And regardless of whether or not there is any verified, valid, or confirmed argument according to a political theory, or conspiracy theory, rather, is what I meant to say, of a conjecture that he himself supposedly has stolen the last political election. I mean, where is the proof, So I wish to say, to point that out there before you two were to hopefully not practically or possibly reprimand me, because that's not what I believe, All the same as I cannot really speak upon the jab one way or another. Let's just say I'm in the neutral zone, okay? Let's just leave it at that. The jab, as there is a global pandemic still possibly going on, but not as prevalent as it was before. But anyway, though, as I think to backtrack here would be no purpose to begin, or else I can go on to following to continue from where and when that my person had last left off, so I can finish up as a complete former, previous, or a prior line of thought, and hopefully not become subject to experiencing, Ronald Reagan's memory lapse episode in time too soon, although he was still secured as president of the USA after they had gathered a team or crew of investigators or inspected to see as to whether or not he still held his mental capacity to continue serving as president of our own Democratic Republic of Democracy. And after that, I mean, just sounding like I'm coming off like Mr. Stutterer, president-elect either, if you know what I mean, Mr. Droopy Diaper Draws, who need to give old Carrot Top his White House and Oval Office back, Sleepy Joe, who was not so sleeping after all if he managed to, successfully become president of the USA. But anyway, though, as you all know, and speaking upon another president, That's President Richard M. Nixon, Richard Milhouse Nixon. As you know, he had been given the nickname of Tricky Dick, Yeah, whereas he did his own, number to send a message to some of such hostile elements to our own democratic republic or democracy that we ain't having it. When he dropped the bomb, atomic or otherwise, upon, that dropped the atomic or nuclear bomb upon, what was that city in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, similar to one of our other presidents, USA, the late President Harry S. Truman, had dropped the bombs on the Japanese cities Hiroshima and Nagasaki, coming off like quite the tricky dick in his own right. But anyway, though, and no disrespect, really. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I am no way affiliated or associated with and representing, the Westboro Baptist Church with its blasphemously ridiculous email associated with and representing its website, some such of a nature. The email of www.godhatesfags.com. In my views and opinion, the God of my own understanding, he doesn't or don't hate the faggots, male cartel members to the LGBT community. If anything, he just hates their rather blasphemous alternative lifestyle preference. As God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, to get together to do the wild thing or the nasty, or to go about the peanut butter action otherwise. But all I can do is pray for those weirdos, who wants to attempt to come against God's divine plan and or the Bible Belt of the city of metropolitan Chicago, for the Midwest as we have it, for our own supposed so-called Democratic Republic of Democracy of the USA, whereas we have most recently have become subject to experiencing the inauguration of a new mayor to replace Miss Bushy-Bush. Read between the lines, fill in the blanks. Bushy-Bush, Miss Too Bushy Beaver Bush. Not that I am wanting to be confused with, a late male chauvinist pig. What's his name? As well as a present male chauvinist pig. From Harvey Weinstein to Jeffrey Epstein. I think one is supposed to be a white Jewish male. The other is supposed to be a Puerto Rican male, like I myself am supposed to be part Puerto Rican and Indian and so forth. Not that I'm out here coming off like, a wolf in sheep's clothing of a werewolf seeing a full moon at night, attempting to scope, stalk, and vamp or prey upon much rather than prey with the 5 feet line like the Madonna stalker. That was quite, a 1984 MTV music performance she did. Remember when Madonna was like a virgin? Ooh, before she had become a Yoda lady, her up like, what's her name? What's that one white girl? Oh well, Caucasian woman who Miley Cyrus is who I'm thinking of. Yeah, that's right. They say that she's like, increasing, that the spread of STDs, or as they call it, STIs now. And she's supposed to be one of the STD or STI queens. And so much for that conversation. But anyway, Joe, yeah. Getting back to the original topic of the discussion or subject matter at hand, whereas we now have a new mayor of the city of Chicago, and hopefully he's more action than talk, you know. And this is what the original social media content is supposed to be about, regarding making reference to him. He's a black male person who has replaced the, to put like this here, the former ex-mayor of the city of Chicago, who has a last name being which sounds like an Indian one, Lightfoot, and whereas that's Lori Lightfoot is bushy-bush. And whereas he had just been inaugurated. His inauguration speech had ended something like within the last half an hour. I was listening to it. It sounded pretty good, but then a lot of these politicians, when they get their inauguration speech, they want to be all pompous. They want, I can be saying, all eyes on me. Come with me. And hopefully he is trying to make things right, or MCGA, yeah, make Chicago great again, or make Chicago godly again. Come with me. And we have got to do something about all this violence in the city of Chicago. Mayor Brandon Johnson. I guess I'm doing my Oprah Winfrey, shout out kind of number. Mayor Brandon Johnson. You want to Mayor Brandon Johnson? Let's hear from Mayor Brandon Johnson. Come with me. But then we don't need any gangbangers in politics either. Mayor Brandon Johnson, can you hear me? We don't need any Gator Bradleys in politics if they're not trying to turn over a new leaf, Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. That just get me thinking. Most recently, as a matter of fact, just yesterday or last night, I was watching this one movie flick. It's supposed to be supposedly a vintage classic Hollywood or Hollywood, California motion picture production. It was. Let me see. What was the name of it? That I am. Well, hopefully I'm not. Becoming subject to experiencing a Ronald Wilson Reagan memory lapse. And hopefully neither Elmer Fudd or Sly Stallone's speech impediment or speech effect episode either. The movie was called. It starred this one, co-starred this one Hollywood, California actor who had paired off with a Hollywood, California actress, Julia Roberts. And let me see, what was his name? Julia Roberts, the white girl, Caucasian woman, and where the white boy, Caucasian male's name was supposed to have been Liam Neeson. That's his name, Liam Neeson. He played the part of a character in a movie flick that is supposed to be about a real life autobiography. A male character by the name of, what was it? Oh, the name title of the movie flick or most picture production was Michael Collins. Yeah, that was the name of it. It was supposed to have been dealing with or making reference to one of the original Irish revolutionaries to help his own nationality of people acquire independence. The country or nation of Ireland trying to acquire independence from Great Britain or England, which had given birth to our own country or nation as we have it, the so-called Democratic Republic or Democracy of the U.s.A. You know, over here in the mid, I'm sorry, not to stray from the original topic. Discuss over here in the Western Hemisphere. What I meant to say, we'll get back to the original topic discussion that is dealing with the inauguration of the new mayor for our great metropolis of the city of Chicago, Illinois, for the Midwest here of the USA. But anyway, though, whereas I'm about to say, you know, and whereas our own, suppose the so-called Democratic Republic of Democracy is falling short of its falling short of its legacy and sit on the law to prevent some of such corrupt police officials, like corrupt politicians, from violating their authoritative positions of power, or violating the authority being invested in their person as representative, representatives of their constituents, you know, so far as corrupt police officials or dirty cops who misrepresent the other, you know, peace officers who are trying to, you know, perform a duty for the citizens within the city of metropolitan Chicago, where they're constantly shooting off their six shooters in the backs of brothers, mainly, mostly or more than Hispanic brothers. They're shooting their six shooters and loaded six shooters into the backs of black brothers, you know. Anyway, getting back to some of such others, a backtrack here to try to complete a former previous prior line of thought in the sanctions word before it would seem to some compared to how others could tend to differ, that yes, and think that I could possibly be experiencing that of becoming subject to a memory lapse episode, as well as one for a speech impediment. But anyway, the movie or film in question is dealing with how this one pioneer for the revolutionary Irish resistance against the British Empire, as it was known back then, before, you know, Great Britain no longer holds political influences over satellite countries or nations, being which had at one time or another been up under this control. And whereas Michael Collins, that the movie was based upon, was dealing with a real life, you know, character who was a part of the revolutionary Irish resistance against the British Empire, and that gave birth to Ireland becoming an independent country or nation that had broke away from the then British Empire. You know, that gave birth to our own supposed so-called Democratic Republic of Democracy. Then I was watching a similar movie flick of a nature. I can't remember it at the moment. Sorry about that. I have become subject to experiencing a Ronald Wilson Reagan memory lapse. But anyway, getting back to the original topic of discussion, I'm about to close out shortly, and not to seem as well as sound like I'm contradicting how that's what it was supposed to be about, the present social media content. But as you all know, the city of Chicago has become subject to experiencing the inauguration of a new mayor, Mr. Not Gator Bradley. Hopefully the new mayor is not tied in with the gangbangers and the different factions or cliques throughout our own city, you know, to compliment. I'm just saying, I'm not saying that he is, but I'm just saying that figure of speech. I don't want to be reprimanded by YouTube, administrative representative person. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, because this is still one of the most hoodlum cities within the continental United States of America. And to compliment the vintage classic pop culture song number, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, or another one. The night Chicago dad, my mama prayed the night Chicago dad. Brother, man, that was one of the classic, man, though. The content of his lyrics was rather tragic. If anything, I like this other one. Staying alive. Then you know John Travolta played in a movie where he was supposed to be in a military high brass character or something like that conversation. Yeah. Anyway, though, Mayor Brandon Johnson, I hope that all that gobbledygook you mouthed off in your inauguration speech, gobbledygook. I'm just saying, matter of fact, hopefully, you know, you was being right on point. Hopefully, you are trying to be a changing of the guard. You know, be like the black JFK or the black RFK for the city of metropolitan Chicago. You know. Now I don't know if we're going to go back to the gold standard to prevent the USA, the United States of America, from becoming no more like Babylon has fallen. Although another supposed so-called Democrat, Republic, or democracy similar to our own, reflected our own, or one that had another foreign country or nation of another superpower that has fairly well most recently had become a Democratic Republic, supposed so-called Democratic Republic, democracy in its own right. You know, can be compared onto our own supposed so-called Democratic Republic or democracy, where it's white populace or white population had never owned black slaves. You know, suppose the so-called Mother Russia, you know, the USSR to be compared onto the u.s.a. You know, USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republics, then which is supposedly no more, to be compared on to the USA, the United States of America. Hey, what do you think about that war between Russia and Ukraine? Hey, what do you think about that baseball game between the White Sox and the Chicago Bears? Between the Chicago, they both from Chicago. They both are Chicago. Are you sure you're not having a memory lapse? No. Hey, what do you think about the Chicago Whites, that baseball game between the Chicago White Sox and the Chicago Cubs is what I meant to say. Anyway, though, and whereas, speaking upon some such other, whereas, you know, our woman Pat Dowell, who had took the place our woman Dorothy Tillman, whereas Pat Dowell is for the unions, and Dorothy Tillman is not. You know, there's so much for that conversation. But anyway, though, I will hope that you, Mayor Brandon Johnson, would do something about the crime in the city. Well, just the other day, some scallywag or hooligan had attempted to stick me with one of them foam Nerf knives in play. I thought it was the real thing. Upon CTA's premises of property, as we have it, of a mass transit, of a public transportation system with all these many different bus and train routes. And where she said, "Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I thought you was one of my homies. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to stick you with the real thing. This is just foam rubber. You see, it's Nerf. I'm sorry. You all right, pops? My bad. No disrespect to my elders. I ain't like that. You know, I got my own clique of crew. Are you freaking God dog it? Are you freaking kidding? Where's the founder of the Black Lives Matter movement? I want to speak to you personally. No, I want to speak to you after all. You know, you got that bogus movement, supposedly for blacks that can't compare them to the real social activist movement of the BPP, the Black Panther Party, in which I am affiliated, associated with, and I'm representing, although I'm not active as the president at the time. You know, I would put forth a proposition, a proposal to the higher ups high brass of the BPP, the Black Panther Party, to permit white persons to join the BPP, the Black Panther Party. I'm for that, man. I'm for that, regardless of whether or not I could still possibly be considered by some compared to how others could possibly tend to differ that at one time or another. And I could possibly still be presently a closet boyfriend of Stacey Dash, the Hollywood, California, or Hollywood, California actress. For the Clueless movie franchise. It might well be compared onto the Purge movie franchise. What's really the difference? Sabotaging, sacrificing what is real, or what is on the borderline between two worlds, between existence that is real and fantasy. Who knows what goes on in this world nowadays? Nothing is what it seems. They say there are a lot of extraterrestrials or aliens from outer space who have taken on human form, where you cannot tell the difference between the hybrids, the Vulcans, and the Vulcans and Romulans, or what was the Romulans called before? The Klingons and the humans. Have you all checked out that TV show comedy, Resident Aliens? But anyway, though, don't be a stranger. Like, welcome to my world, the planet of President Barack Obama's anonymous little brother. Let's get this revolution going. Not that I would be coming off like the black Fidel Castro, for I am a capitalist, not a commie. Let's not have our bay of pigs, I don't believe in defunding the police. I don't believe in defunding the police, Brandon Johnson. I don't believe in defunding the police, you hear? Now all police officers or cops are blue meanies. That is the original Paul McCartney, is it? Hey, Paul McCartney, can you hear me? You're not one of those musicians that had trash. What was it? No. Lady Thatcher is what I meant to say. Not Queen Elizabeth. What do you think about Queen Elizabeth? Am I a fan of Queen Elizabeth? I don't know, am I? Am I supposed to be? Not that I'm a card-carrying member to a secret society of the snakes or lizards. Snakes or lizards that have taken on human form. I am part Vulcan, though. Are you sure you haven't found such another bottle or pipe? Are you sure you haven't fallen off the bandwagon recovery as a person who is supposedly a recovering chronic alcoholic and recovering reef addict? No, I haven't. What does all this have to do with the present social media content of the inauguration of the new mayor? I start to lighten things up until I can become more politically in tune. But anyway, let me try to point on quite a few social issues plaguing our own, supposed so-called democratic city of metropolitan Chicago, which is still supposed to be one of the most gangster hoodlum cities and one of the most racist cities, not only within the continental USA, but to be compared on the other ones for the rest of the global community of countries and nations. We have quite a bit of a crime epidemic. be it due to the supposed or so-called past global pandemic, people are not even safe in their own homes or houses or apartments as much as they would like to think that they are. I'm in one of the worst neighborhoods myself now, thanks to a past proverbial neighbor from down hell having flipped the script upon me. I know I have told you all this here story of a real life incident, something like 100, 1,000, a million times, how my past proverbial neighbor from down hell put the script on me, whereas he himself had managed to convince the management of the building where I was at last for a better neighborhood, whereas I'm presently in one of the worst or worstest neighborhoods for a vicinity area within city limits, being of which is, more poverty stricken and more crime ridden for a predominantly ethnic minority one compared to where I was at for a less poverty stricken or less crime ridden one of a multiracial vicinity area in the community. And whereas the last neighbor from down here, one of the past ones, had flipped the script upon me for having gone through all the proper policies and procedures and protocol to state my grievances, to complain about him violating his apartment rental lease agreement, and at the same time disrespect my rights and privileges as his fellow neighbor of another resident tenant. Yes, keep coming back, Mr. Miss Pop Up. There's this character that always pop up on my social media channel, and literally actually disrespected by making one's presence known for a few seconds and pops out just as quick. Whereas I wish one would show up in my comment section or chat room or whatever I said and say something stupid and sick as an internet troll character so that I can block one. And very few characters of the likes of the nature who I block are permitted re-access to my own YouTube. I want to say YouTube social media channel though. Although regardless of how some think compared to how others would tend to differ, that the white Jewish owns the majority of most of the many different social media networks. This character pops on here for a couple few seconds, then I got no qualms. I'm not anti-Semitic. I admire the white Jewish for wanting to be considered as, regardless whether or not they are considered as the original, Jews of the Black Hebrew Israelites. But then I consider them original Jews. If they adopted, the supposed so-called original Jews' identity and culture, etc. But anyway, though, getting back to some of such other, not that it sounds seem like I'm writing down, but there's this character of an internet troll that pops up on my channel, and he's there for a couple of seconds. He or she, depending on whichever one's gender, for the likes of one's kind, who does that for how many, and disrespect my social media channel for YouTube, as I figure that's total disrespect if you're not staying on for at least a couple few minutes before you push on up, pull out. Anyway, getting back to some such other parts, so really interrupting back in the numbers. I was speaking upon last how this last neighbor from damn hell, then with my past one, he flipped the script on me by how he himself had, convinced the management of the building, the administrative representative personnel where I was at last, to give me the walking paper that he himself should have received after I complained about him a number of times, as well as reported him to the police a number of times for how he would come off like, like the midnight cowboy with all his noisy daily and nightly routine of attempting to make me lose my peace of mind. Not that I would be intending to make anybody else lose theirs for the social media content of this present broadcast of the video, whereas the original topic of the discussion is supposed to be about our incoming new mayor of the city of Chicago, who had from a half an hour to 3/4 of an hour, from a half an hour to an hour ago, had just finished up with his inauguration political speech, who took over for, Miss Bushy-bush, it's that last sounding Indian name of hers. She's supposed to be a historical mayor of the city of Chicago, was our former historical mayor of the city of Chicago twice. She's supposed to be the first lesbian mayor of the city of Chicago, of a female Caucasian member to the LGBT community, and likewise the first black female mayor of the city of Chicago. Anyway, getting back to some of such. Before I were to finish up what the original social media content for this present broadcast video is supposed to be about. Anyway, so this neighbor from down hell, he convinced the management to give me the walking papers, similar to an eviction notice, being a non-renewal of an apartment rental lease agreement. After they confused me with him, as I complained about him a number of times, consecutive number of times, for a daily nightly routine of attempting to make me lose my marbles completely. For a person as I am, who's supposed to be not only a recovering chronic alcoholic, but recovering reefer addict, and whereas upon my person have gone through all the proper processes and procedures, protocol to do so, whereas they give me the walking paper that he should have received, And now I'm where I'm at. It is what it is, And whereas the present proverbial neighbors from down hell, the problem neighbors, are worse have been because they are more creepy. They're creepier. But they like to do some of the same things that the past neighbors from down hell would do. They change up, make their noises, but not as much, because they're more creepy, see? But all the same as the last neighbor from down hell, they, being more present ones, like very much would love to bother with other neighbors' apartment doors, late at night. That much more than during daylight hours, So I have to make sure that I sleep with something up under my bed, similar to a baseball bat, as an alternative to supplement, electronic device of a cell phone. And whereas, regardless of how the boys in blue are not likely to come as quick for this vicinity area neighborhood community being one of the worst ones compared to how they would have thought to, arrive on the scene much quicker to diffuse. As I was saying, I rest my case. Some of the neighbors. But anyway, getting back to some such other, I was so rudely interrupted. Compared to how the boys in blue would come quicker for a much better neighborhood whereas I was at before. I had to move here, relocate with my personal effects, belonging to possessions upon short notice, to keep from becoming the rank and file statistical rate, so percentages of the homeless. The shopping cart people, call them shopping cart people, the daily transients pushing shopping carts. They have all their personal pet belongings or possessions in a shopping cart, that they push throughout the city limits, and some more quite from being out there in the suburbs, it can be found somewhere anywhere. Anyway, so that's another issue that our present new mayor has to address: the homeless crisis, as well as the criminal activities otherwise, panhandling, pickpocketing, purse snatching, not just upon premises properties of a mass transit public transportation system. And another one being the stealing of electronic devices from other passengers that make up the ridership of a mass transit of a public transportation system with all these bus and train routes, be it RTA, Regional Transit Authority, as well as CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, or Metro, Pace, etc. And then there is the social plague of an injustice so far as sexual assault or rape is concerned. A lot of that happens upon mass transits or public transportation system with all the many different bus and train routes, the associated and representing thereof. There was a time where, quite a few female or woman CTA attendants of employees had gotten sexually assaulted or raped by the likes, Like, say, for example, there was an incident where this one male has supposedly approached, well, it hasn't been alleged, supposed to have been, this, I'm saying that figure speech and dance. I mean, it was a little actual hate crime that it happened against a female or woman CTA attendant, where she was approached by some male character who was a closet werewolf, seeing a full moon at night, as in Panty Snatcher, Vapid Pond, Little Red Riding Wood, Little Red Riding, yeah, Little Red Riding Hood, correction, and Elvira, and be compared onto a Madonna stalker otherwise, you know. And he snatched the pants from her. He was supposed to ask her questions as for a direction to get from one area to another, within our city limits. And whereas the female or woman CTA attendant employee was supposed to be trying to get information from him, as she's walking away from him, and he's following behind her. Then he grabs her, gets her keys, opens up a CTA washroom, pushes her in there, and then from there, that's where he snatched her panties, raped her, sexually assaulted her. And so much for that conversation. So that is just another social plague of injustice that, the new Mayor Brandon Johnson would have to address, you all. And hopefully it's not business as usual, getting paid up under the table to look out for certain lobbyist special interests, much rather instead of taking care of necessary business at hand to be a real, true memory of a mayor of the city of Chicago who had stood up to be counted, who had met the challenge, and don't be attempting to defund our police. I ain't for that. I don't care what that rip-off supposed so-called black social activist movement or Black Lives Matter would say, as it's a sellout. A real black social activist movement would be BPP, Black Panther Party. Would be the Black Panther Party. And regardless of whether or not the black Muslims are still pretty much so to be considered as representing the black race of people's person to provide social justice for our own. Although I don't look at myself as being black or white, etc. I'm sorry if this present social media broadcast video may not be up to par with what some may have expected. Would have liked to expect, would have liked it to be, compared to others who could tend to differ. I mean, I'm not that well versed in politics. I apologize for that. Sorry. Then we have yet to see what the new mayor of the city of Chicago will do for our own American citizens within city limits, Chicago residents, whether he's more about action or just more about talk, and the compliment a vintage classic pop culture song number. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. Representing, a rookie disciple. Nah, none of that. Sorry, Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. You're not invited to the post inauguration party for the newly elected politician mayor of the city of Chicago. No disrespect. I mean, I like some of their music, if not all of those two black rap artists, brother. Those two late black rap artists, brother. Especially one like that was giving reverence or honor to mothers, and we just had the Mother's Day holiday just recently passed, Whereas I know I not any longer have my own mom and grandma. They're no longer upon the planet Earth and in the world and land of living, God bless their souls. Hopefully they went to heaven and hell. Hope my two late brothers went to heaven and hell, or are citizens there as well. But then I did celebrate Mother's Day. God works in mysterious ways. I explained in one of my past few videos, whereas I had gotten Mother's Day greeting cards and had presented on to as and give it to some of such female or woman members. One of my much more frequented self-help recovery program meetings compared to the less attended ones, and I presented on to them as that was all that I could give them on short notice, as the Mother's Day holiday had crept up upon me. So I give it to them. They appreciated that. It's a thought that count. Although I couldn't get them a Mother's Day gift to present on to that person, then because, like I said before, stay for record. So I do so again and express and I thought it had crept up on me, that particular holiday. And now it has once again, or could have possibly become one of my most favorite ones now, regardless of how I do not have my mom and grandma anymore. Whereas before then, it was about to become one of my most hated holidays. If it were not for God placing on my heart and mind to think about these female or woman self-help recovery buddies for one of my much more attended meetings compared to one of my less frequent ones. But anyway, though, I'm about to conclude, you all. I'm sorry if this here President's social media content for broadcast or video does not complement the name title to some and such so much. I mean, like I explained to y'all, I'm not so much as politically inclined, in other words, but I hope you all had gotten something out of it. I hope it proved to become a benefit to one and many. If not for you all to be blessed with it, that much more to be said and stay for record. I mean, this new mayor, he has a lot of ground to cover, and hopefully makes our city a much more prosperous as well as safe one. I mean, Chicago citizens, Chicago residents of American citizens should be able to travel upon a mass transit of a public transportation system without having fear of somebody else threatening their lives, like an incident that happened in a sister city, the Big Apple, that can compare to the city as we have it here of the Windy City, whereas a former ex-Marine had subdued an assailant who was going to violently attack, New York City residents who had become a part of ridership of his own mass transit of a public transportation system, who was about to attack other passengers, whereas this assailant or attacker supposedly had done a good MJ, Michael Jackson impersonation, dressed up like him, sing and dance like him before he stopped doing that and just become a really scary character to some who knew he used to perform as a Michael Jackson lookalike. But a Marine subdued him to prevent him from attacking other passengers, and now that Marine is getting heat for that, and whereas if anything, people personally should support him. That more people personally should support him than for some to come off like headhunters against him, because it could have been any passengers that could have been damn near violently assaulted by this cuckoo for Cocoa Pops. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so the violence in our own city of Chicago is something that we have to take care of. But then this here may be one of my last social media broadcasts for a while, you all. Because I don't want to get on here and be like sounding stupid and sick and like I've fallen off the bandwagon that much more, or even so in the least, I have a lot of issues of my own that I have to deal with certain neighbors from down here attempting to push me over the edge, drive me completely bonkers. You know, my present neighbors from down here are worse ones, because they're more creepy than my last one, or they're creepier. So if I don't get online for quite a while since the last time, like this time, I apologize. Sorry, but it is what it is, you know. And but then you have an assortment. You have something like, oh, at least 7 minutes on average or whatever. You have like 700, give or take, my own social media broadcast videos of a collection that you all could view and listen to. So it's not like you all would be at a total loss before I were to go online again. Anyway, on this last note of interest, I would like to say, if you haven't gotten Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, I would hope that you would think to do so now, while the blood is still running warm in your veins, by recognizing, realizing what He Himself had done and did upon the cross of Calvary on the hill of Golgotha, suffering at the hands of some Roman soldiers upon the orders of their, superiors, religious, political, militaristic, otherwise. But then, nevertheless, was He went to that cross of Calvary to become the perfect sacrifice, only sacrifice for you as well as for me. Don't steal my trademark physical gesture. I'm gonna have to copyright it sometime. Not that I'm doing a John Travolta dance number routine or rendition of his classic movie flick, dance movie scene of vintage classic pop culture. Yes. But then, nevertheless, if anybody, regardless of race, walk of life, age, gender, etc., were to profess faith in Christ, our Lord and Savior, the Messiah Deliverer, the Rabbis, the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings, the Prince of Peace, from there you would get the only fire insurance against the electrified damn hell, to become or be a citizen thereof, whereas you will be blessed not only for the hereafter afterlife, but for this life as we have it, whereas you don't have to worry about what your final outcome could possibly become or be then. Unlike those others, anybody that has made that transition and then have a rude awakening, unless they were to become subject to experiencing one of them beyond and back experiences, to be able to come back over to this side of this existence as we know it, and then reverse that decision that they would have made to reject so great a salvation, then your final destination would be just that, to be tortured and terrorized and be burning up forever, in the process of being damned for all eternity, for the realms controlled by the devil and his demons, compared to how we as believers in God will be across that great divide that separates heaven from hell, in the company of like-minded believers as in Christians, a.k.a. Protestants, not supposed so-called Jehovah Witnesses, or supposed so-called Latter-day Saints, or supposed so-called, well, whatever other supposed so-called believers in God, Catholics, etc., with all these different false religions that they are really associated with representing. No, I don't care what Oprah Winfrey said. All roads do not lead to heaven. You believe that lie if you want. You find yourself having a rude awakening if you leave this world without that blood sacrifice of the fire insurance of Christ's salvation upon within your soul. But we as believers in God don't have to worry about that. As we would be in the presence of God and his angels, or who were to go on elsewhere as citizens of the kingdom of heaven. Hey, you all take care and be safe. Be blessed, not stressed. Well, Pro 911 era, or new millennium apocalyptic day and age, and where the doomsday clock is at a couple of minutes to midnight compared on our phone previous project. It was a quarter midnight for these rather difficult at that time. And I'll holler at you all later. Until then, we out. Peace.